Wakana Gojou is a lonely loser who has spent his entire life chasing dolls. This made him a misfit in society, forcing him to spend his school life without friends. This continues until one day, the most popular girl in his class catches him sewing. She manipulates him into creating cosplay for her, giving Wakana a chance to clap her. However, before any of this, as a child, Wakana's grandfather introduced him to the art of doll crafting. He'd spend all his free time practicing to upskill his craft on grandfather's level. However, this cost him a precious childhood friend who left him for being a weirdo. Soon, Wakana wakes up to the alarm, surrounded by art supplies and dolls. He finds his grandfather in the hallways, going to cook breakfast. As always, the two deep dive into the craft of dolls over breakfast. Wakana knows that his years of practice have not gotten him any closer to his grandfather level. This is natural because his grandfather reminds him that he has 48 years of experience under his belt. Still, though, he thinks that his clothes are incredible. The rest of the dolls, however, need polishing. Aside from that, his grandfather asks about his friendship situation at school, making him choke on his food. Wakana assures his grandfather that there are many contacts on his phone. 5 minutes later, he packs his stuff and leaves the house. Unexpectedly, a random high schooler jabs him from behind, calling him a loser. He apologizes for mistaking Wakana for someone else. At that moment, he internally apologizes for lying to his grandfather. The truth is that Wakana is a lone wolf. He can never fit in with the class because they lack common ground. Plus, everyone will die of laughter if his hobby of crafting hina dolls is publicly leaked. Suddenly, the most popular girl in their class, Marin, slips and hits her head on his desk. Her friend thought she would develop a vegan syndrome, but the hit wasn't that bad. Marin turns around and asks if Wakana is alright. He fumbles when speaking like a 2-year-old, admiring her beauty. She goes easy on him for the first time and grabs his hand to find ink stains. Marin realizes he's been going hard at his hobby. However, Wakana pulls his hand before people get the wrong idea. When school ends, one of the boys forces him to clean the class before leaving. Wakana agrees despite knowing that everyone takes advantage of him. Still, he would rather clean up the class than socialize with normal people. Soon, Marin barges into the class for her cleaning duty. She loses herself in anger, realizing that Wakana lets people take advantage of him. She is a straight shooter who tells him that the boys take advantage of him. He needs to step up and voice his feelings, otherwise the world will eat him alive. Days pass by, but Wakana can't forget her words from the other day. He even cuts himself while thinking about her. His grandfather quickly brings him a bandage for the finger. However, he learns that his sewing machine has stopped working. Wakana, with no choice left, uses the machine from an empty arts and crafts club in their school. He enjoys the flow of the modern machine, itching to make new clothes from his grandfather's hina doll. He knows that everyone has left school for their part-time jobs. As he is about to show love to the doll, Marin abruptly enters the room, startling him into throwing away the doll. He makes a once-in-a-lifetime save, knowing his bond with her will end here. Unforeseen, she excitedly asks about his sewing skills. After learning his entire story, she begins. Wakana learns about her struggles to make a cosplay costume. Instinctively, he points out all the mistakes in her suits, making her cry. He begs for forgiveness and even offers his life as collateral. She knows her sewing skills are not on par with him, so Marin begs for his help to create the perfect cosplay, bringing her favorite character to life. Without thinking much, he promises to lend her his talent. He can't believe that a person living in the opposite world would require his help. She blurts out the long name of the game where her favorite character is from. It includes something regarding the Humiliation Club, which flies over his head. Wakana tells her about his lack of knowledge of manga, anime, and games. Upon learning this fact, she excitedly takes things from the top, telling him about the game Slippery Girls. Long story short, the MC enrolls in an all-girls school for research purposes and is forced to take part in the Humiliation Club. The girls there tease him with various options for the players. She fell in love with a character named Shizuka who was shy at the start. However, the Humiliation Club opened her up quite literally. He can't wrap his head around the things Marin is talking about. Despite this, he can't ignore that her face lit up like the sun when talking about cosplay. It is clear to him that she is passionate about this. As her self-absorbed rant goes on credits, Wakana plans to leave early for home to do research. Although, she is always prepared for the worst. Marin pulls a beginner's guide to cosplay from her backpack. The book holds step-by-step instructions from picking the fabric to sewing. Both realize that she couldn't sew a simple costume even with a crystal clear book. After taking a quick look at the book, Wakana schedules their next meeting on Monday. However, the impatient brat who always got her way using the V-card finds his home on the internet. She invites herself in without permission and effortlessly finds his room. During this time, Wakana just fumbles and trembles, contemplating that a girl is in her room. She suddenly strips down to her swimming suit, asking for him to take measurements. But Wakana's heart is racing so fast that it would be a flat line. He starts by taking the head measurement but gets flustered and hits the wall when she opens her eyes. Every cultured thought crosses his mind that goes beyond the game. However, soon, Wakana realizes that Marin is passionate about her cosplay. He slaps himself on the cheeks, knowing that his thoughts are an insult to her passion. After that realization, he calmly takes most of her measurements. While they do it, Marin asks him to measure her feet. He wants to bring her a comfortable chair, but she just jumps on his bed. Wakana freaks out, remembering the vanilla juice that was spilled last night. Yet, she refuses to budge. She calms him down, making him measure her feet without any complaints. But things get weirder as she asks him to measure her plot. Wakana develops the Riz syndrome once again, seeing them shake like puddings. Still, she makes him measure her. Now, the only thing left is her length. He wishes to be more like Marin, unfazed by anything. However, her face is bright red with her speech fumbling like him. He quickly turns on the AC to turn the conversation around. Done with the measurements, he asks for the source of Slippery Girls. She gives him both the games for a better understanding of the characters and plot. Wakana spends the entire day playing the game even after his grandpa comes back with the new sewing machine. He finds it weird that Wakana is playing a game and taking notes along with it. When the cosplay costume gets completed, Marin puts it on and gets into character. She slowly lifts her skirt, wanting Master Wakana to see all the curves. This dream jolts both him and his awake. After that abrupt start to his day, he doesn't even feel like meeting with her at school. But as fate would have it, he spots her walking in hallways with the cool and socializing vibe. The other girls think that Marin is nothing less than a super popular model. She calls him out from afar, diverting everyone's attention. Seeing her being casual makes her friends ease up with him. Still, Wakana's brain signals are offing with so many beauties around him. One of her friends pointed out his bizarreness, but Marin bails him out by getting too close to him. As they leave to grab some snacks, he overhears some girls spreading rumors about him and Marin. To avoid tarnishing her reputation any further, Wakana ghosts her for the entire day. He even passes on her invitation to go shopping at the mall when school ends. Marin insists on taking him with her, but Wakana runs away before people start talking about them again. He finds a safe spot near a sidewalk to hide. Yet, his guilt for ghosting is a heavy burden on his shoulders. Just as he subtly apologizes for leaving her, Marin appears beside her. He reveals that people are assuming that they are going out together. She lets out a wide grin and grabs his hand to go out shopping. He helps her pick the right stuff suited for her cosplay. After jumping from one shop to another, they come across something that blows his mind away. She chooses a medium black wig for her cosplay. However, he suggests picking the deep violet, as her cosplay character is themed in purple color. Lastly, she makes him enter a store. Waiting outside the dressing room is nothing less than a disaster for him. Still, it becomes worthwhile when she flashes her plot for him. After a long day of shopping, they enjoy a warm meal at a local restaurant. With that done, they head out home before the curfew begins. Wakana and Marin discuss some scenes about from the Slippery Girls series, making the people around them fear for their country's future. As the walk continues, she opens her phone and shows pictures of cosplay events. However, Wakana goes mute for some reason. He remembered the first evening when his eyes saw the beauty for the first time. From that day onward, he promised not to use the word beautiful unless it was from his heart. Marin understands his point of view and suggests him to value his principles. Suddenly, she finds a snack stand at the corner of the street. Marin offers to buy him. He politely declines her offer, amazed that her stomach can hold this much food. Soon, they walk on the flyover where Martin tells him that the event is in 2 weeks. She rushes back to catch the train before it's too late. But Wakana is still stuck on the fact that his deadline is 2 weeks at max. Even after boarding the train, he can't stop stressing about the deadline. Although, he can't mess this up since Marin is excited about the event. With his mind clustered, Wakana arrives at home. His grandfather is worried about him checking in late. He apologizes for not calling him sooner and informs him about the shopping trip with a friend. Grandfather assumes that they must have bought books or manga, but a game falls out of the shopping bag, making him slip and hit his head. Wanaka immediately calls his cousin Miori outside of the hospital. As she catches up to what happened, the nurse brings grandfather outside. Miori informs him that he needs to rest for 2 months, and since men are bad at nursing, grandfather is going to move in with her. She also tells him to pack his bags and stay the night, leading him to miss school tomorrow. Despite his busy schedule, he calls Marin to inform her about his situation. He will need to head back to Mori's place to visit his grandfather. After 2 hectic days, Wakana finally returns to school, reuniting with Marin, who tries to cheer him up. But his mind is focused on finishing her cosplay suit before the deadline. Missing 2 days had already added more pressure. While walking in the hallways, Marin mentions their midterms are starting next week. Later, when Wakana cleans up the hina doll shop, a random person calls them for a shop tour. The visitor is from France who just has to see the shop tomorrow. Wakana can't say no, and now he's faced with a mountain of work. Yet, Wakana manages everything from delivering his grandfather's brushes to the workshop tour at 4.30. He even pulls in all-nighters to work on the cosplay costume. In the midst of all this, he reaches the class on time for his midterm exams. After everyone finishes, Marin intends on getting a hold of him. However, he runs away to finish the cosplay costume on time. Her friends think he is weird for bailing out. Still, Marin visits him worried about his earlier behavior. She waits outside the house, thinking he's visiting his grandfather. But Wakana never shows up at the house, forcing her to eat alone. Unbeknownst to her, he is sulking over his half-baked way of life. He remembers that his grandfather used to carry his brushes with him on travels. He claimed that one day of not working puts him back 3 days. But Wakana can't even remember the last time he held his brushes. Before you know it, he lets out his exhaustion by crying out loud. Wakana can't help but feel stuck in his craft. He wants to become a professional hina doll craftsman like his grandfather, but his skills are half-cooked. As these tears fall out, he remembers a conversation from his childhood when his grandfather told him that doing something he loves doesn't mean it will become. He just needs to focus on the smile his crate brings everyone. Right now, there is nothing more precious to him than Marin's innocent and pure smile. With her face in mind, he hyper-focuses on the job and works the entire night without any scissors to finish the suit. He presents the final product to Marin one day before the competition. Seeing her sleep-deprived face forces her to clarify the situation. She didn't enter for today's event since Wakana was busy with him all week. He sits down with relief, but Marin starts crying her eyes out with guilt. She didn't realize his struggles until now. Wakana puts everything aside and tells her to try out the cosplay. He even helps her with the makeup and eyelashes to give the perfect cosplay look. Both are excited that her dreams of becoming Shizuku from Slippery Girls came true. He is also relieved that all of his hard work paid off. As his grandfather said, her smile made him a whole lot more excited. Although, she mentions that the underarms are tight, making it impossible to stretch her hands. Wakana realizes that thinking of comfort and design is necessary when making real clothes. Nonetheless, he wants to capture this moment by taking pictures of her cosplay. Aside from looking the part, Wakana suggests that she should pose as Shizuku, but he realizes that the background doesn't match. Yet, Marin picks out a neutral wall to shoot close-ups. Initially, he finds it hard to get into character, but after a little practice, she nails it down to the last detail. When the shoot comes to an end, Marin decides to visit the event since her costume is all set. She wears everything perfectly for the big debut. However, Wakana catches everyone's attention. Looking like a middle-aged married man on bag duty, she quickly takes him to a less crowded area before he pukes from attention. As they catch their breath, a photographer recognizes her cosplay and takes a few pictures in authentic poses. Soon, a line of photographers form, pleading her for a Shizuku pose. He silently steps aside to let her have the moment, but seeing this makes her realize that his promise to make the cosplay is fulfilled. He assumes that Marin will ditch him like everyone else. Still, he can't help but remember all the first time he had with her. As he drowns in thought, Marin finishes up and runs towards him. She claims that her suit is about to fall off. Before coming to the event, she added an extra to match her chest size for an authentic look. But now, it feels like the costume is choking her. Furthermore, the costume is boiling her from the inside like a furnace. Wakana realizes that choosing a thick fabric for the base is a blunder. He cools her down with a cold drink on the cozy staircase with no one around. As always, Marin is open enough to ask for his help in unzipping her costume. Wakana stands up from shock like she was the one unzipping him. But eventually, he comes around and helps her clean the sweat down there. After a few minutes of fan service, she decides to call it a day. Before leaving, she wants to make one little stop at the plaza. It seemed that the heat stroke forced her to leave a photo shoot. She finds the girl and asks to resume the shoot. Considering her condition, the photographer clicks a few photos under a shade. A sudden gush of air lifts up her skirt, giving her shots of a lifetime. Still, she promises to delete them out of decency. However, Marin was more worried about not staring into the camera when it happened. After wrapping up the event, they board the train back home. He talks like this is going to be their last time together. But Marin can't wait to wear her next cosplay costume at an upcoming event. He subtly lets out a shy smile, but Marin catches him red-handed. He promises to make better outfits in the future. As the train nears a tunnel, Wakana suffers through a sleep attack. But before falling asleep, he said that she was looking beautiful at the event. Marin remembers him mentioning his habit of not calling anything beautiful unless it was from the heart. She can't stop staring at him, her face bright red with shock. The two meet again back at his place to clean the wig and costume before the stains are permanent. Wakana reads the instruction manual, carefully helping her clean. As she watches him read, her mind fills with a dreamy pink with red roses. An extrovert like her can't believe falling for someone like Wakana. Amidst all this, Miori drives grandfather back home after a full recovery. He recounts his fall in more detail, making her laugh. She claims that boys at that particular age want to experience new things. However, he receives a more lethal heart attack when seeing him with the costume and Marin. Wakana assures him that they did nothing wrong, and surprisingly his grandfather believes. Hearing the entire story, grandfather compliments him for crafting a master pierce. Despite his comments, Wakana is not satisfied with the outcome. When they discuss his shortcomings, Marin goes crazy in the back. She can't believe that her heart is falling heavily for a boy who's besties with grandpa. Yet, she can't look away from his intense look. Her thoughts in their discussion are disturbed by her stomach growls. Grandfather naturally hears it as well despite his weak hearing. He invites her to stay for dinner, something that has never happened to her. Since her mother passed away and her dad was out of town for work, Marin has been living all alone. She usually hits the convenience store for convenient meal preps. Grandfather feels bad for her eating dog food, so he invites her over to eat dinner with them every night. Once they finish, Wakana chivalrously walks her to the station. Grandfather waits for her outside the house after a few days. However, the heavy rainfall tells him that Marin won't be coming over. Just as he is about to shut in for the night, a girl comes to their house soaking wet. He settles her in until Wakana comes back home and hears about the girl. He knows that Marin won't be coming for dinner as her schedule is busy for the night. He suddenly worries that a con artist might have tricked his grandfather. He rushes to the bathroom with bad thoughts only to find her taking a bath. Wakana quickly apologizes for seeing her in the bath, hoping she'll forgive him. When things normalize, Wakana discovers that she's a second-year student in Sakura High. Afterward, he learns that she's here to see his costumes. Wakana excitedly takes her into the workshop to show her around. At first, she looks around everything, complimenting them for their hard work. However, the young blood claims that she's here for his cosplay, not his creepy dolls. Not only that, she demands him to create an exclusive cosplay for her alone, otherwise the police will arrest him. To calm the situation, he adds the only girl in his constant list to the mix, and she straight up goes crazy over Juju like a superfan. Soon, she has Juju begging for personal space, but her requests are ignored. Once the crazy fan moment ends, Juju gets a moment to speak. She wants him to create the perfect Shin cosplay from her favorite magical girl Shaun and Blaze. Marin suddenly crashes a train into their conversation, explaining the entire plot line in a few minutes. Juju is impressed by Marin's vast knowledge, realizing she is truly passionate about cosplay. Wakana pays attention to the story, but it flies over his head. He just understands that the girls need a new cosplay for the upcoming event. Before leaving, she assures Marin that her intentions towards her boyfriend are pure. Wakana quickly clarifies the situation, making her feel guilty, but the expression on Marin's face tells her that there are no more fish in the pond. Shortly after, Marin insists on doing a group cosplay, acting as Shin's elder sister Neon. Juju feels uncomfortable with a stranger on her face. She refuses to collaborate as this is her dream cosplay. She even booked a perfect studio at 15k yen an hour. No bars are held, and Marin offers to pay half of the studio costs. Even Wakana is ready to pitch in since she can't do her makeup alone. Juju goes silent to think about the benefits for one moment. Marin notices her posture and apologizes for overstepping bounds. But when Marin finishes talking, Juju, shy, agrees to the collaboration. After everyone leaves, Wakana gives his time to making hina dolls. His grandfather takes a close look, commenting that his skills have improved. He thinks that delicately sewing Marin's cosplay costume has helped him. He advises him to look for beauty in everyone to inspire his craft. Before calling in the night, he tells him about the new project and visiting Marin's place. He leaves the shop in his grandfather's care to pick up research material from Marin's house. She opens the door after a few bells in her night suit. Her jugs remind him of the time he took her measurements, making him excited down there. Suddenly, Marin freaks out and slams the door, remembering her contacts are off. After putting in her contacts, she takes him to her messy room and shouts Marin. She forces him to watch the starting episodes of the anime with her before leaving. In the middle of their streaming session, she realizes that they are practically on a home date. She just stares at him watching the show, falling head over heels in love. However, the feelings are ruined by her stomach growling. She offers to cook them food, making him more excited than ever. But gradually, he remembers her food description back then, realizing that cooking himself is a better option. Nonetheless, Marin insists on cooking for him as her guest. She leaves him to watch the stream alone to look for leftovers in the fridge. After taking a look, she decides that omelette is her only option. She fantasizes about creating something that is served in a maid cafe with love written on it. But unfortunately, she messes up the omelet, messing up the entire dish. However, Wakana acts on the saying don't judge a book by its cover and eats the dish. With that, he takes the first spoonful, which turns out to be delicious. Not only does he enjoy the dish but asks for the recipe since his cooking is old-fashioned. Her eyes sparkle upon hearing his compliments. He takes the anime DVDs back home to binge watch for reference. Hours later, Wakana calls Juju after sending her a detailed sketch of Sion's costume. She can't believe the amount of thought he put into it. He is relieved that she loves the base sketch. With that done, he picks her brain on prior cosplay pictures. He wants to know the secret behind Juju's elevated eye shapes, matching the characters perfectly. She uses a special cosplay tape, stretching her face. Plus, her sister, who is also a photographer, ends things with editing. Until now, she didn't know that Wakana created his first costume. She invites them to a family restaurant to have her little sister teach them about cameras. Both he and Marin expect to see a mini cute version of Juju at the restaurant. But her appearance is the complete opposite. Shinju is a 5.10 middle schooler who is shy to meet new people. However, Marin doesn't hold back and starts asking weird questions about her inches. Unexpectedly, Marin finds common ground with Shinju's photography. She loves taking pictures of her sister and she loves watching them. Little by little, Shinju opens up about their relationship, lighting a spark in her eyes. Marin can also tell that Juju adores her little sister. Mostly, they use their father's DSLR to shoot pictures in their backyard. The technology allows them to shoot at different angles without changing the lens. Wakana quickly searches the internet after learning the basics, but he is shocked to discover that the lenses are sold separately. However, Marin is determined to save up for a DSLR, but Juju suggests other cameras might fit their budget. After paying the bill, she invites them to tour a studio near the station. The terrifying thing is that the studio is an abandoned hospital. Marin and Shinju are excited to find the best area for pictures, but the eerie location gives Juju the creeps. Still, she tries to stay calm, but Wakana soon notices that something's off. She runs off alone to prove her toughness to others. On the contrary, Shinju teaches Marin about the basics of lighting. Her advanced camera flash can click breathtaking photos in the dimmest of light. Plus, they can use background lighting with reflectors to enhance the look. As their crash course continues, Wakana finds Juju trembling in the corner of a staircase. She wants extra time to settle in, otherwise her expression will be ruined. He tries to change the subject, asking about her choice to pick him for the custom cosplay. Before revealing her motives, Juju asks about his dream. He mentions that his dream is to surpass his grandfather. Despite her cosplay career, she envies him for having an achievable dream. When she was 3 to 4 years old, Juju wanted to become a magical girl. But soon, it became clear that magical girls is a fantasy. One day, she discovered a Shin costume and fell in love with cosplaying. But seeing Marin's photos online stirred up feelings of jealousy. She wanted him to design her costumes as well. She knows that other professionals can make the same outfit. But seeing him was love at first sight. Her statements remind him of when his passion for hina dolls began. His grandfather told him that people should fall in love with his craft at first sight. Thanks to Juju's description, he finally understands his grandfather's feelings at that time. After a few days, Marin and Wakana finish their last day in school before the summer holidays. She takes him to the beach, disregarding the weather conditions. She raves about a nearby burger joint until a bird swoops in and snatches her food. Marin laughs it off when Wakana offers to share his burger. During this time, she also enjoys a sip of bubble tea. However, he refuses to taste, fearing they will indirectly kiss. Soon after, Marin runs into the water to soak her feet. She leaps playfully, accidentally flashing her plot. Not long before, she forces him to join her in the sea. Unexpectedly, his feet start to sink in when the water withdraws. In light of this, she realizes that Wakana has never been to the beach. He confesses that his childhood was mostly indoors painting hina dolls, though he regrets not listening to his grandfather's advice earlier, exploring the world. Wakana admires the ocean's beauty. Marin, without thinking, offers to spend the entire summer with him. He eagerly accepts her invitation, but before he can notice her blushing, she excuses herself. With the group cosplay coming up, Wakana returns with Marin after shopping for materials without warning. She flashes her plot, teasing him. However, she mentions that it is an imported swimsuit. Before long, he crouches in the corner, asking for private space. She teases him about the until all the creamy stuff comes out. A few days later, Juju tries out the finished costume from Blaze. She loves the way it fits and feels. The cape in itself is a masterpiece in her eyes. As she nerds out on the features of the cosplay, Marin envies her for knowing her stuff. She also picks apart her neon cosplay, but fetch is the only description that comes to her mind. Hours before the shoot, Wakana changes her face shape with cosplay tape. They are excited for the group cosplay, but unfortunately, their excitement is washed away by the rain. Despite this, Juju thinks that the gloomy background will help them capture the depressing scenes from the anime. However, their photographer Shinju doesn't arrive on time. Shortly after, the two get worried about her. On top of that, Marin mentions that Wakana is nowhere to be found as well. Unexpectedly, he finds Shinju unconscious in the street. After reuniting with the girls, they plan to postpone the shoot for another time. Shinju tells Juju to go on ahead, as she needs to buy something near the stations. Before everyone leaves, Wakana stops her, asking if she really wants to stay on the sidelines. He discovers that she is conscious of misrepresenting the character. Furthermore, Juju might hate her for messing up the cosplay. Wakana is confused, as he thought cosplay was more about having fun than matching your favorite character. He advises her to try cosplay with his help. The main problem is that her allowance money can't cover the cost of the materials. At first, Wakana deep dives into thought, realizing that materials can break the bank. But he wants to see her stand with the other girls, and so he promises to figure something out. Eventually, Shinju reveals that her favorite character is Soma from the Blaze series. As she describes her favorite character, Wakana breaks down from awkwardness. In conclusion, he takes her back home to measure the size of his uniform. In the anime, Soma wears a uniform that is similar to their school. However, having similar uniforms isn't enough. He needs to figure out a way to conceal those beanbags. After hours of searching on the internet, they find the perfect accessory with a cheap price tag. To keep everything a surprise, Wakana decides to cut the wig, but even he is scared of ruining an expensive item. Shinju is in awe, not knowing that talented people like him are nervous too. He assures her that everyone has their own struggle. For instance, Marin looked like an angel from afar. However, after spending so much time, he realized there are things she struggles with. To sum it up, Shinju realizes that her elder sister must have struggled in life. Once their conversation is over, Wakana helps her get ready for the group shoot. He shocks the girls by appearing with Soma at the hospital. After having their fan moment, Wakana reminds them that they are paying by the hour. Before their time expires, Shinju starts the shoot, recreating multiple iconic scenes from the anime. After her tiring experience with Marin grinning at her face, she advises Shinju to take singles. Moments later, she takes him to the side to show her appreciation for breaking Shinju's shell. On top of that, Wakana paid for the transportation, tools, and props from his own pocket. She promises to pay him, as good artists need to be paid. Once finished with the best group shot, Shinju edits the photos with Juju's feedback. They compliment Marin's ability to act like the character in front of the camera. Still, above all else, she wants to know Juju's thoughts on Soma's cosplay. She throws her world upside down by confessing her jealousy. That is to say, Juju can't pull off the Soma cosplay or any character with a taller, more feminine physique. As she lists out her difficulties, Shinju recounts her conversation with Wakana. She cheers her up by promising to get a part-time job in high school to fund their cosplaying dream. When their conversation ends, she shares the files with Wakana and Marin. Not a single moment passes before she calls him to discuss the shoot. She was so pumped that she is watching Blaze for the 800th time. Though, she mentions that Shinju's cosplay caught them by surprise. By now, he knew he used his uniform as the base material. Wakana reveals that they created the outfit at his house. Not only that, Shinju wanted to keep things a secret because of her shy nature. Immediately, Marin pouts, hearing that she was alone at her house. Despite this, she lets off that nothing is wrong with her voice. Meanwhile, Wakana lays around overwhelmed with the free time on his hands. He plans to practice making dolls and cosplay the entire summer. As a matter of fact, a few days ago, Marin showed him another anime character, Veronica. He thinks creating a simple strap and would be easy. In the present, she shows up at his house with a foundation similar to tan. She invites herself in and uses the bath to clean the tan. Afterwards, Marin shows him her shopping spree for Veronica's cosplay. She also found a good background sheet to take their pictures. Suddenly, she lifts up her shirt to apply foundation. This sight makes him turn red. Marin panics, thinking that he's sick. When she stands up to check up on him, her feet stumble, leading to a head injury. With the monster bump on her head, she postpones her cosplay event, and instead focuses on getting him new clothes. After entering the shop, Wakana acts like an alien. He lacks the basic knowledge of the trend, forcing Marin to pick out his clothes. One by one, he tries out all the lame outfits from the store. However, none of them are to his liking. Ultimately, the two head back to get some food after a long shopping spree. At this point, Marin mentions that her head injury is almost healed. She can't wait to cosplay Veronica at an event. However, Wakana advises her to cosplay alone. Suddenly, she stops walking out of worry. He hesitantly reveals that seeing her makes him uncomfortable. Immediately, she is relieved to hear his concerns and promises to choose her cosplays with more care. Spending too much time in the sun arguing makes Marin feel sick. They quickly find a cute manga cafe to cool off. Unfortunately, Wakana remains on the edge when having Marin close to him, although she let it affect her one bit. Instead, she introduces him to her new favorite character, Liz, from a slice of life manga. Liz is a succubus whose mission is to make the main character give up writing and sleep. The story is intriguing, but he never heard the term succubus before. To put it simply, Marin reveals that they are demons who show men a good time, kill them afterward. At this point, he wants to know if the manga is based on slice of disturbed life. Still, she forces him to read the whole book, getting him hooked. Despite loving the character, Marin feels that cosplaying Liz is a bad idea. She claims that Liz is perfect for someone like Juju. However, Wakana disagrees with her statements, saying she can pull it off. As she accepts his decision, she heads out to grab some books and food. He closely observes the pages, discovering that the back of Liz's outfit is always hidden. He evolves as craftsman, realizing that sometimes he needs to use his imagination. A few days later, Marin texts him about her plans to rent a studio space for Liz's cosplay suit. Somehow, she found a cheap place for 5,000 yen. Wakana agrees to meet up at the location, not knowing it is outside a love hotel. Marin mistakenly booked a love hotel on the internet. Still, they can't ignore that the room is similar in the manga. He breaks apart, looking around and realizing that it is a love hotel. Wakana ignores his emotional breakdown and goes to change her clothes. In the meantime, he turns on the TV to pass the time. However, the channels are tuned into the hub, catching his undivided attention. When Marin barges out of the bathroom in her Liz outfit, he fumbles and turns off the TV. She admires his eye for detail in all aspects of the costume. Wakana especially used two types of fabric on the tail to make it wiggly. In other words, he dived deep into the world of demons and succubus to add more depth to the costume. Technically, he changed the entire thing off, turning it to something else. Yet, she informs him that outfits always change when manga are adapted into anime. Each cosplay depends on the creator's interpretation, and this is his interpretation of Liz. Without wasting any more time, Wakana starts clicking photos of her in every possible angle. Still, he thinks something is missing from the pictures. He asks him to sit on his lap and look straight into the camera. The picture is perfect as it can be, but suddenly, they are flustered after hearing happy sounds coming from another room. He feels the dark night slowly rising, and asks her to get off his lap. Her phone accidentally falls to the ground, turning off the lights. They share a deep, intimate moment until the room service calls them. After changing her clothes, she bumps into the girl from next door. She thinks that high schooler discovering new things are cute. Finally, as the summer vacations near its end, Wakana finds the time to focus on painting hina dolls. Just as he is about to start, Marin calls him over at her place for a chat. She tells him that she bailed on the festival at the last minute. He asked her to send pictures of homework before leaving the house, and so she just called him to her house instead. Talking about homework, he asks about her work. Unexpectedly, Marin is a catalog model for a magazine. She is hustling to buy the latest model of DSLR. As a traditional way of spending time, they plan to watch a horror movie together. Before starting, she assures him that there will be no scary scenes in the movie. However, a few minutes in and Marin starts to freak out. Wakana, on the other hand, seems to enjoy the movie. When it ends, he asks her to replay the movie to use it as a reference for makeup and costume reference. After watching the movie multiple times, she sends her homework pictures to her father overseas. She is relieved that there are no math assignments, otherwise she would die of boredom. After a brief thought, Wakana mentions that there were maths assignments in the homework. Soon, she realizes that most of her assignments are left at school. In the end, they have no choice left but to visit school in their casual clothes. Once that is done, Marin goes rogue and slips into the school pool. Despite not knowing how to swim, she eagerly jumps in the pool, forcing him to save her. He wonders about her fun time at the beach with her friends. She claims that just looking at the ocean and seeing sparkles is enough to fill her heart. He understands how she feels since his hina doll painting skills are average. However, his love for them can't be put into words. A few days later, Marin finishes up her homework and invites him to a festival. His grandfather sees him off at the door, hoping he will get lucky. After walking a while, he reaches the crowded festival only to find her in a yukata. Marin flashes her neck, realizing that he is a sucker for these things. She makes sure to walk in front of him to give a better view of the neck. However, soon, the variety of stalls catches her eyes. She eagerly jumps from one stall to another until Wakana is forced to buy all the food there. Just then, the announcers inform everyone that the fireworks will begin shortly. As the sky fills with color, Wakana realizes how many years he has missed them. He always heard the echo from his room but never took a chance to step outside. However, this year is different as he's with Marin. The two of them stand stuck staring each other down until she shows him her blue tongue from eating all the candy. When the fireworks end, he notices that her feet are hurting due to the straps. He offers to buy bandages from the nearest convenience store, but Marin insists on going with him. Before long, she gets up on his shoulders and they walk up a hill. She quickly makes a plan to visit every firework festival next year, assuring him that they will stay together. Later that night, Marin calls on his phone, making him worry. She is freaked out after watching a swivel to the horror movies. In summary, she wants him to stay up on the phone until she falls asleep. That is a wrap, boys. Honestly, I am so fuzzy that I can't say much. Leave a sub, comment, and like the video if you want to enjoy the fireworks with your loved one.